Welcome everybody. This is super exciting to a live tonight. This is my second ever live. Greatly inexperienced in the Instagram world. My name is Ellie Portel and I'm an EFT couples therapist. I work with individuals and I work with couples. I'm the founder of Imo Anochi, which is an organization that started about a year ago. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, but basically we are the central hub and location that people can come to when they're looking for support. We create and refer therapy groups, support groups. We connect Jews together going through similar challenges. I'm a middle school Rebbe, so any of my Talmidim out there or past Talmidim, a number of them said they saw this, so a shout out to you. And I work for OL as well. I'm the outreach coordinator over there. I am so excited, and I will be your MC for tonight, and really excited about this. We have other people coming in, and so they're coming in.
Yeah, we got them up here.
It's gonna be great.
Ah,
I'm just stalling to help with the time. Guys, I see the schedule and I see the guests who are coming on. Amazing. Incredible. Okay, and also, by the way, be sure to type questions and stuff like that, because we're going to be taking live questions. And this is all live, so it's live. Don't forget it's live.
What is this called, Yaakov?
Instagram Live.
Okay, Instagram Live. So I the first thing that I want to start with is I really want to thank all those people who are involved in getting this together and getting the event together that we're working on. Baruch Hashem, and thank you Hashem for all this Siyata D'Shmaya. I want to quickly read CP, who's really over here, the number one DJ in town.
Gonna be the best live of all time, chat.
Midi's Clothing, also over here.
Shout
Guys,
out.
give him some love. Avital Rafael, Sarah Shipper, Dariana Yal Vogel, Unique Vivi, Shira Custom Wigs, Ariella Kamen, The Real Melinda Strauss, Shidduch Roundtable, Eliza Ben Shalom, OK Clarity, Shlomo Levinger, Busy and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I'm hearing some feedback time. Only Simchas, Rachel Ashtroy, and Marathon Mother. All of you, thank you so much for sharing and posting and getting the word out. And also many of the organizations that are involved. Rivka Fox, who we'll see shortly, of Blind Faith, YU Connects, Adopt a Shotgun, OK Clarity, the OU, both the Accelerator and ECP, Kesher Networks, Aboni Olam, High Lifeline, DJCP, Mid-East, Jewish Matchmaking Movement, and One Soul. Thank you so much to all of you. It's really such a zchus to be here together with you. Are we going to get to see the other people who are on live as well?
Who do we want to add in?
We want to get Rivka Fox in.
Okay. Let's get them in now.
And we want to get Rivka Krinsky in. So the first thing that I'll just point out there is us at Imo Anochi.
Hi.
We are
Hi.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Okay,
Baruch
amazing.
Hashem. Hi.
So nice to see you, Rivka. Thank
So
you.
nice to see you also.
For those who remember, my only other, foray into Instagram was with Rivka. So thank you, Rivka. And it's a pleasure to meet your husband as well.
Hi, Rabbi Patel. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for having us.
Amazing. So I need to give a couple of special shout outs, but can we add Rivka Krinsky as well?
And who's the last? Do you want to do a fourth?
No. Rivka, if you want to add someone who couldn't come on live or just even be on right now, there's one slot available, but otherwise we'll just Rivka Krinsky.
Wait, sorry, what?
He's waiting.
Oh, for reference. Okay.
We invited her.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Amazing.
All right.
So I need to give a real big shout out to Rivka Fox, both for organizing this particular live, also being the lead shotgun of the event that we're going to be talking about. And I'm really so amazed and inspired, Rivka, by you and the work that you do. And together with your husband, you guys are a real power couple. And you're so creative, and Hashem should give you a lot of strength and courage to continue your amazing work, really.
Amazing.
Thank you, Rabbi Portel.
Thank you.
I want to give a big thank you to a really good friend of mine, Yaakov Langer, and Living L'Chaim. We are doing this directly and straight from the Living L'Chaim studios. Yeah. Yaakov is really amazing and a real true friend, and such an awesome and sincere and really great person. And so it's a real privilege. And finally, I want to thank. I hope she's watching. I think she's watching. But a special thank you to my wife for really allowing me to do a lot of the things that we're doing here. I know it's very, very busy what we're doing here. This is the time of Sphira where a very, very famous phrase of Shali v'shalachem shalach, right? That everything that we're doing and everything that you allow me to do is really all credit to you. So that is all of my thank yous. I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate everyone's support. And this is not a one-person job at all. This is a team. It takes a village to do what we're doing here. So I really, really appreciate it. What I want to do before we kind of get to our segments is I want to just explain what we're doing here tonight. And how we got here. So I'll share a little bit about myself because I know there are a lot of big Instagram personalities here. I'm certainly the least known person on this platform, so I'll share a little bit. Hi, Rivka.
Hello.
Okay, I'm just introducing a little bit about what we're doing here tonight, and then you're going to be on with Rivka Fox in a moment.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about myself. I grew up here in the Five Towns. We're right now in Eula, but I grew up in Woodmere. A typical childhood growing up, and that all changed at the age of 6 years old. It was winter break, and I was in Beaver Lake with my family, and we were in the country in a place called Beaver Lake, and I was going ATVing with my grandfather and my 3 other brothers. And long story short, I'm not going to go into the whole story, but we got into an accident on the ATV, and everyone was, injured in some way or another, but my injuries were the worst, and I sustained a spinal cord injury, which left me paralyzed from the chest down at the age of 6. And so I really needed to navigate life in a whole new lifestyle. And Baruch Hashem, with amazing support of my family, who I'm sure many of them are here as well, and I love and appreciate each and every one of you. I had to navigate and kind of learn to adjust to new life. And Baruch Hashem, I did that, and also I have the best friends in the whole world that didn't treat me any differently and kind of were there to support me, and I was able to be there for them. And so there were no major hiccups, as surprising as it may sound, really during school. And the first major area where I felt like this major roadblock was in the world of shidduchim. I had 3 older brothers at the time, and I have 1 younger brother. But I saw my 3 older brothers go through the parsha of shidduchim, and they were people who were seen as very, very sought after. There was lines of resumes for them, and people were asking, when can I set up my daughter with you? And I was always like thinking to myself, probably around from the age of 16 and up, like, I wonder what it's going to be like for me. Like, how is this going to play out? I knew what my capabilities were. I knew my personalities were very similar. I knew that there was really one defining difference, and that was that I had a physical disability, and that I used the wheelchair to get around, and that impacted certain physical elements, but nothing emotionally, nothing cognitively, Baruch Hashem. And yet I still said, like, is this going to make a difference in terms of what my dating process looks like? And my suspicion was correct. It was drastic. It was very, very different than what my brothers experienced. And that was really, really hard emotionally to deal with, right? Like, why am I being treated differently? Why am I not being seen for who I am? And it took a lot of work. And, obviously looking back, I see that everything is hashgacha pratis, and everything is for a good reason, and every challenge is there as a stepping stone to something else. But it was really, really difficult. Baruch Hashem, and it's actually just so crazy. Out of all my brothers, and Baruch Hashem, we're all married in the Portal family, Bli Ayin Hara. But out of all my brothers, I believe I was the youngest one to get married out of all my brothers.
Wow.
I always compare it to Sheba and Mitzrayim, where we were supposed to be in Mitzrayim for 400 years. But Hashem made it a little bit more difficult, and so he took us out at 210, but it was equivalent to the 400. So I always kind of like compare my dating experience to that, and I learned a lot through the process. I also met the most amazing partner, my wife, who's not here tonight. She is watching our kids, but we are here for all singles in whatever way we can be supportive.
How long are you married for?
What was that?
How long are you married for?
We are married, Bli Ayin Hara. We're coming up on 9 years.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Bli Ayin Hara. So at that moment when I was in Shidduchim, I think I made probably some deals with Hashem. But one of the things I said is that when Amir Hashem I get through this, that I'm going to be that source of trying to do something different, kind of to address the feelings that I had, and I recognize that for me, right, I am in a very good situation, compared to a lot of other situations and people that I meet, and so I was one of the luckier ones in a certain sense, and yet it was still so painful and so difficult, and I speak to so many people who describe the pain and describe the difficulty, and it's so hard. So that's a little bit about my backstory. I'm still going to bring us to here. Fast forward to around COVID time, where every single person was making a podcast. Some more successful than others.
I started one in COVID also.
What'd you say?
I started a podcast in COVID also. 100%.
Right. If you had a face and you were able to talk, you made a podcast during COVID. So
We started the first day of COVID as well.
amazing. So
Oh,
right,
wow.
it's like survival of the fittest. We should do some story about like who survived and who didn't.
All I know is I want to interview you now.
What do you say?
All I know is from the few words that you just shared, I would like to interview you on a podcast.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
I accept it. Emir Tashem and Bli Nether. And so I started a podcast called Rolling with the Punches. And really the aim of the podcast was to take my work as a Rebbe, take my work as a therapist, and try to interview people with different challenges and what they were going through. The first podcast I interviewed Avi Davidson, who had a spinal cord injury. That was like the topic I felt most equipped to interview someone on. And really like to ask questions, and it was actually so healing for me to like hear from somebody else. And then the second person I dated was my 11th grade Rebbe, who was a father is a father to a child with Down syndrome. It was about parenting with Down syndrome. And from there, we actually partnered with different organizations for each episode. So for that episode, we partnered with HASC. And what happened organically is that people began to reach out after and say, I also have a child with Down syndrome. Can you put me in touch with him? And I saw that there was such a need and such a desire to connect with people who were going through the same situations. And so that was when the idea of Imo Anochi came about. There are so many organizations that connect people that are going through similar challenges, but there is not yet one organization that no matter what you're going through, you could find a person that's going through something similar. So we created Imo Anochi last year. We were, Baruch Hashem, part of the OU Accelerator, which is an amazing program that really gave a big jump start to our organization. And we have a lot of different groups running. We've become a referral source for support groups. If anyone's looking for support groups, we typically will refer out unless it doesn't exist, in which case we'll create it. So currently, last night, we just started our third cohort for single mothers in the 5 towns. We have our own group, actually, of spinal cord injury. We have about 15 people internationally, some people who are in Israel, some people who are from Mexico, all with spinal cord injuries, and we actually went together, I think it was 2 years ago in the summer, we went together as a trip, like all of us together, and we went hiking, like accessible hiking, which was like amazing, crowdsourced, someone found it, and I really saw the power of community. So as an organization now, this is obviously a big step for us, this is a big platform for us. We are building an amazing team. 2 of my closest high school friends are on my board. We're currently building a platform that we're going to be lending to different organizations to streamline their support process. And there are big things coming. And if anyone is excited as much as I am, I'm looking for passionate people to join our team. Specifically, there is an open role, and I know I'm on Instagram here, for a media personality, someone who can manage our Instagram account, because we just made it 2 days ago and have 0 followers. So please reach out. And that brings us here. So one of the areas in which we've brought a lot of people together at Imo Anochi is those with physical disabilities. And there's so many different components to physical disabilities and what that brings. But one of the biggest needs is shidduchim. It's something that is always a roadblock, always that's something on people's minds. And I'm referring specifically to my expertise is with those who have no cognitive limitations, no social limitations, but strictly physical difficulties, medical conditions, or something along those lines. Nothing that prevents them from being in emotional relationships. And that's my area of expertise in terms of who I work with, and that's who this shidduch event is really geared for. But it's also geared, it's an open-minded singles event. And this is something, this shidduch event is actually in response to what's been done in the past. So the big mistake that's been done in the past, right, and the big issue that's been done in the past to try and address this issue, and has been a deep source of pain, is that very often people who have a physical disability strictly were not seen as the individuals that they are. They were very often seen, and very often are seen. I remember even the suggestions that I got, right? Like, so vastly different than the ones that my brothers were getting. And again, what was the main difference? Only some physical, distinction. And so as a couples therapist who understands what emotional compatibility consists of, right, it made no sense to me. And it was so frustrating and so deeply hurtful because I knew what I wanted. So, and so many people who I encounter and speak with have mentioned the same thing. Like, why am I, who work in a hedge fund, right, but might be missing a finger, why am I all of a sudden being set up with someone who has severe cognitive limitations? It doesn't make any sense. And the only explanation is that people are viewing me as my disability and not as the person that I am.
So who didn't view you that way, and who set you
But
up? Who didn't view you that way, and who set you up with your wife?
Oh, so it's a great question. I know I'm giving like more of a lecture, so I appreciate you bringing me into as a conversation here. Why you connect? Why you connect? I have so much
Wow.
I dove to, because the way their platform worked, and again, I did everything. I probably reached out to every shadchan, that was under the sun. Told them a little bit about myself and really, really pushed myself, to say this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. And you could tell instantly when someone sees you for who you are, and when you could tell when not. And so there were certain shadchanim that I worked together with that ultimately got that. And again, my wife was ultimately able to see me exactly for who I was.
Wow.
My wife's name is Neely, and my siblings were joking over Pesach that, everyone needs to find their Neely in a haystack, right? And Halavai, there were more of her and more like her in this world in Amir Tasha. And I know that there are. And those are people who we're basically looking to bring to this event. People who are open-minded, people who are open to seeing people for exactly who they are. At the end, we'll speak a little bit more about specifically who this event is for, but maybe I'll just take a moment right now. The event that we're doing, if not everyone knows yet, we'll definitely post about it, and all the people partnered as well are going to be posting about it. Is an event that is basically labeled from open-minded singles, meaning people who are looking to meet people and see them for who they are, rather than just for what they see on the exterior. And there's a certain depth to the people who we are, targeting, and because of my background, and because this is a response to many other shidduch events where they just pooled hundreds of people with all different disabilities, regardless of compatibility, we are pre-screening every single. I'm personally meeting with every single one. And many of them, this is not for that. This event is not for them. There's been requests for other sorts of events, but I can assure you that every single person is just a privilege and an honor to me. And I've been so moved just from that process. If nothing else comes from it, I'm a changed person just by meeting the people who are coming. And I'm so amazed to see how many singles who don't have any disability, but just are saying, I want to come to an event where it's framed as open-minded and seeing people for who they are. And the joke that I make is that it would be the craziest story if, like, you have two people who don't have any disability but just came to this event as open-minded singles, kind of met each other in that process. It would be a great story. So I'm going to speak about the event, and then I'm going to hand it over to the Rivkas and Rick. But the event is taking place on May 18th, which is the Sunday after Lag BaOmer. The schedule is, the event starts at 6:30. We're not disclosing the location. We know a lot of people are going to want to come. We have the great Shlomo Levinger there, who's going to be doing icebreakers, and Rivka Fox is our lead shadchan, which we're so privileged to have her there, and all her creative ideas. It's geared for all the people that we just mentioned, highly accomplished, sophisticated, deep, and emotional people who have a lot of emotional depth to them and are ready for serious relationships and marriage. And we're so excited about it. And to introduce the first segment of the two Rivkas, first of all, Rivka Fox of Blind Fate and her husband, who's the lead shadchan for this event, and I'm so happy to have you. And Rivka Krinsky, who's a matchmaker, a coach, founder of One Soul, and the host of From the Inside Out podcast, which I personally listen to, which I think is great as well. What they're going to talk about, because so many of the people that I've met said, I've never been to a shidduch event, a singles event. Like, what do I expect? How do I deal with, certain things? What is there to expect? So I'm going to give it over to you guys. I know I went a little bit over time, but take it away, guys, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Rabbi Forsell.
Okay, so I thought it would be fun to sort of moderate so that the Rivkas, have a way to answer questions. So I'm playing the role of the single coming to the event and trying to understand what exactly this is all about. Patel, your background is remarkable. You are a remarkable person. It is an absolute privilege to be here, and so privileged to be able to build this event together with you and the Rivkas. I know Rivka Fox a little bit better than I know Rivka Krinsky, but all my interactions with you, Rebbitzin, have been amazing, and it's been a delight to work with you as well, and I'm looking very much forward. Good news, I also don't know much about what shidduch events are like, except for what I experienced with my wife. I did not grow up religious, and so this whole world is a little bit outside of me as well. So I represent the everyman. So I'll ask you guys, the Rivkas, what is it like to come to a shidduch event, in general? And let's top line, what can we expect, as we know that every event is unique, irrespective of the venue, irrespective of the type of person, and every person is different. So how do we generalize what the experience might be like?
Great question.
I think maybe your wife can go first. Who would you like to? Who are you asking?
It's the Rivkas. Rivka,
I can start and then we'll pivot.
Okay.
So I think that, first of all, I don't want to come on here saying like, oh, dating events are for everyone. I know that there's so many different avenues for people to find their shidduch, and dating events are, for most people, very, very scary. And so much good has come from dating events also. So I'm not here to say, oh, everyone who's been doing traditional shidduchim or meeting people a specific way should go out there, but it is an amazing, amazing resource to finding one's person. From my experience, most people that do come into a dating event have a lot of nerves. I see it as like, I guess I would break up a dating event into like a 4-stage kind of process. There's the coming in, the registration, there's kind of like acclimating oneself and kind of feeling very, very overwhelmed. Then there's moments of connection, speaking, vibing, and then there's leaving. And I think that's just like kind of just a basic framework of what it's like for most people. And I think the experience is really different from people who feel more comfortable in public settings and dating settings, and to people who this is like real anxiety ridden.
Okay, Rivka, can you chime in and tell us about the process from your perspective?
Yes, so I think anxiety, I'm just like following Rivka's lead, could be part of it. I think also, let's say somebody doesn't have anxiety. One of the things that I've noticed from going to an event is people have very high expectations. I'm going to the event, I've got to find my match. And I think a really good way to look at this, and I've seen people leave events and come to me afterwards feeling really disheartened and disappointed that they didn't find their person there. So I want to just share that I think one of the ways to look at it, and I want to share 2 different stories that will help with that. But one of the ways to look at it is that, Hashem has many different ways that we can find our soulmate. It could be through a matchmaker, it could be through an event. It doesn't necessarily have to be the event, but the event could be a stepping stone towards your shidduch, or you could find a new friend at this event, not necessarily your shidduch, and you could find your shidduch there. So there's many different things that could happen at this event. You could connect with somebody new that you've never met before. You could feel like nothing's happened, but something has actually happened. And I want to share a story with you that just happened now with me, actually, as a matchmaker. 3 years ago, I went to one of these big events. I happen to like small events where I can really connect to everybody. I am a people's person, so I don't mind being at a big event, but sometimes it could be overwhelming because I'm picking up on that energy in the air where people are feeling overwhelmed. And I'm trying to just bring people together. And at the end of this particular event, I actually flew to Florida, especially for this event. I felt afterwards like I met so many people. I don't know what's ever going to come of this. I ended up sitting at the donors table, and one of the donors that was sitting next to me said, I like the way you interact with people. I'm going to start sending you people that I meet that are in my office, or, she's not a matchmaker, just somebody that's connected. So for 3 years, she's been sending me different people, and nothing ever came of anything that we were doing together. But in the last few months, I was trying to set up a gentleman, and she had sent me a young woman that I thought perhaps could be a good idea for him. And I put them together, and I set them up with Hashem's help, and they just got engaged. And this was after 3 years of not going. I didn't go back to the event, but in the third year, when I saw that this was happening, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go back to this event again, these big events again, because I thought nothing happened from it, but something did. And I went back to this event that time, and the main speaker had canceled. I just went to help him. But the person who was leading the event, the main speaker canceled, and I ended up being the main speaker. And there were people at the end of the event that I saw were very disheartened, and I told them this story, that I have a couple about to get engaged, and I was there 3 years ago, and I thought nothing happened. But you never know what's going to happen. It could be a moment later, it could be 3 years later, because just yesterday I met a woman who, I was at a real estate networking event, and she said to me, I went to a Chabad house. I'm Chabad myself. She went to a Chabad in Manhattan in Midtown, and she didn't want to go. Her friend said, come. Her friend ended up canceling. She just said, you know what? I'm just going to go anyway. She went with anxiety, with what Rivka's sharing, but she decided she's going to go. She sat there, and across from her was her husband-to-be. She met him. He asked her out. They went out, and she was in her 40s. She married him.
Wow.
Happened to her at the event. So it does happen, but which happened to her, which is so inspiring. But to go into it, just really open-minded to seeing what Hashem can bring your way.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's an amazing, amazing story. Let's double click on this, the idea of expectations, and we'll use the language that I think we're used to in our community, which is how do we balance the hishtadlut, the effort we put forward at the event, and we'll call it the emuna or the laying back at the event. What's that like, and how would you say that can work in terms of social dynamics and guys coming in and maybe they get a little nervous and they feel like they should stand on the side, but oftentimes it's important for a guy to make a move or introduce himself even if he's nervous about that. And who should people spend time with? Let's dive in a little bit to what the hishtadlut might look like at the event itself, Rivka.
Okay, so I think that mindset is really, really important. And this is with everything, every situation in life, everything in Judaism really is about this idea that we have to do our hishtadlut, our effort, and everything is really in God's hands. So like Rivka's stories that she said, this person went out, they showed up, they got dressed, they did what they had to do, and then Hashem had a plan, and Hashem made everything that was supposed to happen. So looking at it in terms of I'm going to show up, I'm going to be my best self, but it's in Hashem's hands is just such a great framework. And also it can help people just to feel calm and relax those nerves, because it doesn't matter if you wear the wrong outfit, if you talk to the wrong person, the right person, you say the wrong thing, the right thing, you ate, you didn't eat. These things don't matter. Within the realm of normal hishtadlut, it's all in Hashem's hands. And I think also that mindset can shift the energy in a room, because it's not about, all about what a person looks like, or all about, what am I supposed to be doing and I have an hour to find my basher, but it gives a more menucha hanefesh, a much more relaxed kind of energy. And I think coming with this idea of hishtadlut, part of hishtadlut and like decorum at a dating event, I was thinking about coming in with the mindset of I'm here to give to others, to make other people feel comfortable. And I think a lot of times I hear from women at these dating events, they say, guys didn't really come up to me. And I was thinking, like, as a take charge moment for guys or a call to action for guys could be something like, your opportunity is think of all these women here. Imagine they're your sister and you want them to come home from the event feeling good, feeling like they were approached by a guy. And for a woman, it could be, let me talk to that girl who's standing alone. Or when the guy comes up to me, let me give him a compliment. Let me say, thank you so much for introducing yourself and giving it back. And how that Emunah framework and coming in as being a giver can kind of shift the energy and create like a really, really great dynamic.
That's beautiful. Rivka, did you want to add anything to that process of hishtadlut at the
Well,
event?
everything Rivka just shared, and I think bitachon does play a big role, and part of bitachon is the unknown, not knowing what Hashem has in store, but to trust the process. And so that when you come into that room, you don't really know the outcome. And the way bitachon works is not to have expectations from Hashem, but to just create that opening and to see what Hashem brings. So coming in with bitachon, I think it's always good to reach a bit of sharat bitachon before you go in, like to connect to Hashem. And one of the ways to do that, to tap into bitachon, is to read something on bitachon. And I think that is very helpful, even just to open up to any page and have that thought in your mind. And I think that just, you were sharing about, being there for somebody else. Sometimes it can't, I think that is always the best way. Like giving is always the most healing way to approach things. But I think if you are shy about doing that and you just really want to come and be there, I think the best thing to do is be yourself, because Hashem created each of us with unique talents, with a unique way. There's no two faces alike. No one looks alike. No one is alike. We all have our uniqueness. So to really come and be you. And some advice, if you are going to go up to, like if a guy is going to go up to a group of girls and has his eye on one of them, to really talk to everybody first, have a conversation with everybody. Because I've had girls who have said to me, guys come up and they just talk to this one girl and I'm like nobody. But to have a conversation first collectively as a group, and then perhaps later walk up to her when she's not up to anybody. But if you see that she's always with the girls, at least you've spoken to everybody and made everybody feel like a somebody, and then ask the girl out. But I always do think it's best, because you were saying who should approach who, for the man to be the first one to approach the woman. But if you as a woman feel like you don't mind going up to the guy, by all means. I just think it is like the classic way of doing it, the traditional way. And one of the best ways would be for the man to go up to the woman. But I also think in today's modern world, there's nothing wrong if you feel comfortable to go up to the man, but you don't have to feel pressured to.
Yes.
I so appreciate you saying that, Rivka, like, because I was thinking that as well, right? Meaning sometimes a guy might feel, right, like there's so much pressure on him. And I think one of the things we want to do is almost like take all this pressure off, right? Like it's okay to say hello to someone either way in a certain sense and introduce yourself.
Right.
Totally.
It's a perfect transition, Rivka. You're reading the mind here. I wanted to talk about 4 quadrants, which is what do I do if I'm interested in someone? What do I do if I'm not interested in the person interested in me? And how would you say that role works for women versus men? How does that operate? Go ahead.
Okay, so I've had actually very recently an experience. I was on the Rand Pesach program, had a big dating event, and after the event, I started getting messages from guys who were saying, I was told by so and so, a woman at the event, that I should reach out to you because I'm interested in them. And it happened with a number of women, and I was really curious, and I messaged the woman and I said, wait, what's going on? And they were like, oh, I didn't feel comfortable with giving the guy my number, and I didn't really see it as a match. So I just said, speak to my shadchan, and this way I didn't have to offend anyone. And I thought it was really, really nice, even if the girl is interested, but doesn't know the guy yet, doesn't want to give out her number yet, in a really nice way to say, here's my shadchan's number, and like, let's be in touch after the event, as like kind of feeling safe, like I'm not going out there and giving my number to anybody. And it's okay for a woman to say, like, let's exchange resumes. No one should feel forced to jump into anything. If a guy says, in a first conversation, how about let's get dinner next week? Like, it's okay for the woman or vice versa to say, let me get back to you. It was really, really nice to meet you. So just protecting that no one should feel like they have to do anything. And your other question was about, interested in someone.
Yeah.
I think that's where the shadchan comes in as a facilitator. That's so, so helpful in these events. And Rivka, you could speak to that. The
role of the matchmaker at the event.
Okay, well, I love that the girls told them to get in touch with my matchmaker. I think that's great. And I would also there's different, ways of sharing with somebody in a nice way. If you're not that interested, you could say, you could first start off with something nice, like, I'm so touched. That is so sweet. Thank you so much. Do you mind if I give it some thought? And then you have some time to think about sending a text. You can even exchange numbers and say, and send a text later and say, gave it some thought. I don't feel like this is the right fit for me, but I do think you're wonderful. There's ways of saying things in a nice way. If she doesn't even want to give out her number, she can say, thanks so much. I'll give it some thought. I'll get your number if I decide that it would be great for us to go out. So there's different ways of, you can even think before, like I just shared these 2 ways of saying it. So you have that in your head. So, if I don't want to meet somebody, that's what I would say. And, if you let go of your anxiety, the right words come. You trust your intuition. If you don't feel it's for you and you think of that you'll always share something in the nicest way possible, the right words will come. And if you feel like the right ones, it didn't come and you may have hurt somebody, you can always reach out and say, I hope I didn't hurt you, but I just didn't feel like it was the right fit, but I'm going to think of you if I have any friends that would be good for you. So that's one thing. And what was the other question about the matchmaker?
The role, if they are interested, is there a way that person's interested, but maybe they also want to be a little bit more tsunua and modest about how they go about that, or they're uncomfortable walking up? How can the matchmaker help facilitate those types of interactions when people actually are genuinely interested?
Always is, if you're shy about it too, do, and even if you're not shy, because it's always good to have a go-between, somebody that can bring clarity to both parties. Sometimes it can take 2 weeks for the guy to actually set the date, but you have a matchmaker, she's going to be on top of him and be like, come on, are you going to reach out, go on the date, where do you want to go? Or, just to be, maybe one party thinks the other one's not really interested, and the matchmaker's going to be able to share with the other party that they are really interested, and like, oh, they are, hey, we can go out. So no matter what, it's always good to have a matchmaker or a, shall we say, mashpia, someone that is a good guide, that is going to be a good go-between. I think that's the best way to do it. And yeah, so I think that would be the best way to do it if you are feeling a little bit shy. And if you are shy in general, there are tools for letting go of, like, for just taking that leap forward. For someone who is shy, and if you actually go up to somebody and say, would you like to go out? And they say yes, like, you've really taken a step forward, gone beyond your comfort zone. And that's something that, like, you've broken a barrier that is just really incredible. And it's not about what the response is. If the person ends up saying no, first of all, it's not you. It's just that they didn't feel it was the right fit for them. But to really see it as you've taken a step forward, and to give yourself a pat on the back for that, for going beyond yourself.
Thank you very much. Soraya Portel, I know there was an opportunity for people to ask questions. Do you have access to some of those questions?
Someone wrote, how much
So
is
I think
that?
let's open it up to the chat right now. Does anyone have a question for either?
Someone wrote over here.
How much Ishtadlis do we have to do? Can I introduce this question? I want to introduce this question because I think it was something beautiful I heard from my Rebbe's Rebbe, Reb Shlomo Volbe, who said that, the tefillah of going to the event is the tefillah aspect. The Hishtadlis is also tefillah. That's what Rebbe Volbe said. So going to the event is already a show, a sign that Kadosh Baruch Hu, like Rebbe Zinkrinsky said, that I'm interested. This is my tefillah. I'm putting this is my Shemona Esrei. So that was a beautiful idea, that nothing has to happen in the room to say I did enough or I didn't do enough. Just showing up and going, meeting Rabbi Portel, and spending the time to be interested is a tremendous tefillah. That's an act of ishtadlis, as Rav Volbe used to tell us. So I really appreciated that. And then maybe you can go into actual, what does ishtadlis look like in the room, and maybe we'll go to the next question.
Should we continue with that,
Sure.
or we go on to the next question? There's
I think I would love to go to this question over here. About, because I want to ask about, like, what should I wear to this event?
Yeah.
So I feel like some practical questions, if anyone wants to put it in the chat. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, there's
Go
different
ahead.
types of events. Are you talking about your particular event?
This
Yeah,
event.
let's say our event. Yeah.
I always tell. Sorry. Go ahead, Rivka.
Oh no, I just think it's important to look at the flyer, and if it says dressy attire, to wear something, Shabbosdik or Yontifdik. If it says casual attire, like, I think it's good when someone's making a flyer to share what kind of attire it is, and it should be unique to you. So what you would normally wear to a dressy occasion, that's what you should wear. And if it's a more casual occasion, you can dress a little more casual. I think that it's really about what kind of event it is.
Rivka,
And what
what
about
would you
this
say
event?
for our
Yeah,
event?
Rabbi Portal, what are we calling this event?
I would say, meaning just to look at the flyer, I would say like casual but like proper, so like
it's always good to be smart casual and
Yeah,
Yeah.
smart cat. I like that. Yeah, there you go. Smart cat.
represent who you are. Like
Yeah.
if it's a smart casual and you're a more casual, like I think it's good to represent you, like the best version of you.
The best version of your smart casual.
Yeah.
Okay. What's a good kosher idea breaker?
Icebreaker.
Is it oh
Is it much or to
is
flirt?
it mustard to flirt? I think there's a difference between flirting and being very, very personable and trying to get to know someone in like a very interested way that's engaging. And I know people here are coming from all different backgrounds, but I think we could say in a kosher way, like being very engaged and interested and personable is for sure safe on every end.
And Mrs. Krinsky said giving compliments.
Yeah.
All right, Portel, did you want to jump in on that?
In terms of what, a kosher icebreaker?
Is it okay
I
to
know
flirt?
before.
I think hi, how are you? What's your name? Is a great one.
Amazing. Is there any other questions in the chat that you'd like to address here, Portel, before we move on to your next segment?
I think we're ready. Unless anyone, is there anything else you guys
Excellent.
think we need to handle? I think we're good, and I think we're ready.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having
So
us.
first of all, I want to thank both of you so much for being on. We're gonna get Ariel Berkowitz on, and I'm gonna let Yaakov Langer have his studio back. Yaakov Langer is gonna take over right now for a little bit, and Yaakov already interviewed Ariel prior to him getting engaged and married. So
Sure.
I'm gonna give it over. That was an amazing episode. If anyone hasn't seen it, and Yaakov, here you go. Go ahead.
What is this? This is the thing that kids are using these days. Hey, Ariel and Rebecca, how you doing?
Wow. Good.
Wow.
What's
good.
up?
Just so honored to be here. Yeah, so grateful to be
Great
speaking.
to have you. Ariel, do you recognize the background? The studio?
I do, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's the place to be.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep.
Okay, Rebecca, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Not in person, but digitally. This
Yes.
is great.
Meet you.
Okay, we have a lot to discuss. So, first off, I want you each to introduce yourselves, and we're going to talk about each of your journeys, and then we're going to get to you guys meeting and dating and getting married. So exciting. So, Ariel, if you could quickly, I mean, for those who haven't seen your episode yet or haven't heard you speak around the world, could you give us a little background to how you grew up and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I was born in Dallas, Texas. I grew up in Dallas. I've lived here my whole entire life. I had a pretty good childhood. I played sports. When I was younger, I went to Jewish school for a few years, then ended up going to public school. And, I started to get involved with the wrong crowds and, wasn't doing all the right things. And I ended up at a concert right after high school, and I found myself, not in the right state of mind. And I was basically in a very tragic accident involving a train where I lost both my legs. And I woke up in the hospital. I was very confused. I didn't know what happened, but I had a lot of support around me, and I chose to be very positive about my situation. And I survived. I think many of us know that, if you get hit by a train, you're most likely not making it out alive. And so I was just very grateful to be alive and to still have my arms and hands and my head, and I'm able to still have kids. And so I was just very happy to be alive, and just been recovering and making a comeback from that point on. And so, later on, I started connecting with my Jewish roots and became closer with Hashem and started learning Torah. And it just kind of like all came back to me from those few years when I was in Jewish school. And so, yeah, I'm just so grateful to be doing what I'm doing. I walk with prosthetic legs now. I'm pretty much a full-time prosthetic user. I can pretty much do anything that anyone else can. So just very happy. I'm the happiest I've ever been. And, I just got married to this beautiful, wonderful woman over here, special lady. And you want to tell them about you a little bit?
Sure. So my name's Rebecca. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I grew up in a town where there weren't many Jewish people. I was raised celebrating Hanukkah. Not much else Judaism related at all. I grew up playing soccer. I ended up going to college, having a career, and dated Goyim my entire life almost. And eventually COVID hit, and I decided to move back to Los Angeles to be closer to my family. And I got a job, and I was pretty happy where I was in life at 20. This was when I was 28 years old, or 27 years old. And but I wanted to get married one day, and my parents always instilled in me the value of marrying someone Jewish, and they really felt that was something that was really important, even though I wasn't raised with much. And I told them, where do I go? How do I meet Jewish people? I don't know any Jewish people. And they told me there's a whole Jewish community nearby called Pico Robertson. And I ended up going on Google and typed in Jewish groups in Los Angeles, and Aishlit, a young professionals group, appeared. And I was like, sure, why not? I'll give it a go. And I ended up reaching out to the Rebbitzin, Shira, and she invited me to the women's group that just happened to be starting a few days later. And I decided, why not? Let's go. Like, why not try? And I went, and I got the most amazing chavrusa. I didn't even know what a chavrusa was at the time. I've never been around so many Jewish people in my entire life. Something really was sparked in me, and a girl there asked me, do you want to go to Shabbat dinner tomorrow? This was a Thursday night that she was asking me. And I was like, what is Shabbat? I have no idea what that is. And I said, sure. She said, it's just a dinner. Just come. I was like, all right, I'll come. And I drove there, of course. I had no idea what I was even doing. And I ended up going, and it was the most amazing moment, like one of the most amazing moments in my life. I went to this beautiful family and saw the respect from the parents to the children, and the parents blessing the kids. And I just had never seen anything like it in my life. And Baruch Hashem, my family is incredible. I'm so grateful for them. And I have 3 older brothers who have supported me in my journey towards finding Judaism. They found it themselves more now, and they've been on their own paths towards growing. And it's been like our whole family journey almost now. And so this has been over the last 2 years. And eventually, so after that Shabbat, I ended up joining a seminary. I eventually went to Israel for the first time, and really just found a relationship with Hashem. So I always think that me moving back to Los Angeles wasn't just to become closer, or to get closer with my family. It was really to also get a relationship with Hashem, which I never had before. So yeah, 2 years later, I met the love of my life, and I'm just so grateful for my life and where we are today.
That's really incredible. And it's interesting, Ariel, a little, like, maybe it was a week after the interview and meeting you, came for Shabbos. It was awesome. I think it was a week after that you guys started dating. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Our first Zoom date was the day after the podcast had dropped. It's very crazy.
Wow. So take me through it. Who introduced the idea? Did you guys bump into each other? Did a shotgun read it? How did that go?
Yeah, so I was just pretty much sitting on my couch, and I'll track back actually a little bit before that, where I was trying many different things to try to find my other half, and nothing really seemed to be working. Obviously, I have a very unique situation. I tried talking to rabbis and shadchanim, some other online platforms, and online wasn't really the best for me, because just explaining my situation through that type of platform wasn't really so easy. A lot of people kind of said no and counted me out. And in many cases, I just wasn't really given a chance whatsoever. And I also had some people trying to set me up with other girls who were disabled, and maybe it would have been great, but I felt like, in a sense, I was being limited. They were just kind of saying, like, since you're disabled, you can only date a disabled girl. And I gave some of them a chance, and we dated a little bit, but it didn't work out. And I felt like at that point I just wanted to give it to Hashem. I was putting in all this hishtadlus, and I just told Hashem, I said, Hashem, I'm just going to give it all to you, and I'm going to pull back now. And so that's what he was speaking about earlier. He was talking about finding that balance between hishtadlus and emunah and bitachon. And so I was trying to find that balance, and I started speaking about 9 months ago. And, I figured, okay, like I'm starting to speak, I'm starting to get these engagements, and, I'm going to make connections. Maybe somebody will suggest a girl for me. And at one of my speaking engagements, there was a lady who had told me she wanted to sign me up for Saw You at Sinai, the dating platform. And I was kind of telling her, I was like, I've tried some of these online platforms. They don't really work well for me. And she's like, no, just try. You can use my gold membership for a month or something like that. And so I just kind of like let her put me on there. And, got suggested a couple girls that didn't really work out. And, and then I was sitting on my couch. Rebecca got suggested to me, and I saw it, and I accept. The way it works is it goes to the guy first. The shotgun sends it to the guy. Like, these could be random shotguns that you don't even know. And so it was a lady. Her name is Sylvia Handler. I believe she lives somewhere in New York. Mm-hmm. But she had suggested Rebecca to me, and I looked at her information and all that, and I accepted her. And then once the guy accepts it on that website, it goes to the girl, and then the girl has to accept it, and then they can exchange like information and all that. So you want to say what?
Yeah, Rebecca, you take over. Okay, he says yes, and then you get his resume, and you're thinking what? What's going through your head?
So I had a month before this all happened, I had just gone back from seminary from Israel, and I had just quit my job. I planned to stay in Israel for at least I planned at least 6 months, and I was there, and unfortunately some things were happening where my parents got a bit nervous, and so I decided to come back, even though unwillingly. I was not too happy, but like honoring my parents was something I always wanted to instill in myself and my future children, and so I thought that was the right decision. And so I came back, and I was like, hey, let's talk for some dates. Maybe I can find my husband. And a lady suggested to me Saw You at Sinai. So I joined, and I got some matches and just didn't seem like the right fit. And eventually I got Ariel's on that Monday. I got his profile sent to me, and I looked at it, and I saw his legs, as his first photo was a picture showing his legs standing at the hotel. And no, I wasn't sure at first. On my profile, you can literally mark, like, are you willing to date someone with a disability? And I had said yes. Like, when I first saw them, was filling out the profile, I was like, oh, of course. Like, why would that be a problem? And then here I am. I'm presented with that situation exactly, and now I'm like stepping back. Like, wait, is this something I think I'm gonna be able to live with, and is this something that's going to be too challenging for me? And I really didn't look into his profile at all after that. I just saw it, and then a few days passed and just let the match sit there, and I ended up flying to Baltimore to see a Rebbitzin and a rabbi from Neve to spend time in Baltimore to see the community. And I got a call from our shachran, Sylvia Handler, and she said, Ariel is just wondering if it's a no, just decline it. It's not nice to let it sit there. And I was like, wow, she's absolutely right. I shouldn't have let it sit there. I either should look into it or just decline it. And so I declined it at that moment. I was like, I don't have time to look into it. It's probably not a match. As it's so easy to just judge someone off of their profile or their picture. Like, we're just so physical. We're in a physical world, and it's just a click of a button. It'll disappear. You never have to see that person again. And I don't know, that's just not nice. And when I'm looking back at it, but then, so obviously we're married today. So then what happened? So I declined the match. And a few days later on Sunday, the day after the podcast was released, which I didn't know about at all, I was thinking about it. And over Shabbat, I thought about it also. And I was like, wow, I just judged this guy off of something so physical. It doesn't matter at all. His mitos are what's important. And if that were to have been me, I would never have wanted someone to judge me off of that. And I didn't look into him at all. He could be this incredible man. And I decided I would reach out to the Shah Khan and see if she could reach out to him and give me a second chance, basically telling her that I judged him, admitting my faults. That was a complete mistake what I did. And I told her that I judged him off of something, that I should never have done that. And people that know me know that I'm not a judgy person, and here I am judging someone off of something like something that Hashem led him to have. And Hashem loves everyone, and why should I be judging him? Why shouldn't I love another fellow Jew also? And so I ended up reaching out to the Shah Khan, and she reached out to Ariel, and he, do you want to continue?
Yeah, so I saw she had declined a few days before, and then like the week kind of just went on. I didn't really think much about it. The podcast came out, our episode, and I watched it Motzei Shabbos on my couch. I'm sitting there, and I was like, wow, that's so amazing. Like I felt just like this energy, like, and I was able to put my story out on your platform, which I'm still so grateful for. I go to shul the next morning, and I go to my car, I look at my phone, and it's a message from the Shah Khan saying, hey, Rebecca would like to do a Zoom meeting tonight. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought she had declined. And she's like, oh no, she reconsidered. And so I just kind of thought about it for a second. I was like, okay, let's just try it. And that night we had our first date over Zoom, and there was just a spark. Like there was just a really good feeling, and we connected very well. She told me her story, and I thought she was talking about my story. Like everything she was like, very similar to my story, obviously without the train, without the accident and all that. And so we just had a lot in common, and there was some connection there. The conversations flowed very well. And so, that was kind of like my first experience in Jewish dating, where I felt like the date went really well. And I didn't really know how to proceed necessarily. I just let a couple days pass, and I was about to hit up the Shah Khan. So that our date that day was Sunday, and I let a few days pass. And I think it was Wednesday, the Shah Khan hits me up, and she says, oh, she was very impressed by you. Her rabbi wants to have a conversation with you. And so the rabbi calls me, and he starts talking. He's asking me about books I'm learning, all this other stuff. And then he ends up saying that she's going to fly out to Dallas. And I was like, what is going on? Like, that's crazy. Because she wanted to see my legs in person, and to see how I walked around and how I did my thing. And so she came to Dallas like a week later, and we had our second date was already in person. And yeah, it went very well. We were just kind of just seeing if we liked each other and in person, and she asked me some serious questions the second day that she was in town. She was only in town for 2 days, and one of the questions, like I would say the first serious question that she asked me was, if your kids wanted to go to the zoo in the future and it was like 95 degrees outside, like would you be able to do it? And I said I would push myself. I would try my best to do it, and even though I don't like the heat. And so yeah, it just kept flowing from there. And I went to Los Angeles during Chol Hamoed Sukkot, and that went pretty well. I mean, there were ups and downs, but for the most part, it went well. And so we just kind of just kept growing together from there. And then you want to continue?
Oh, so I was just gonna say, our dating was not like each date wasn't like wow, it was perfect. Like we had 2 flat tires. Right when he picked me up the first time, we got on the freeway, and immediately he had a flat tire. And that really shows the person's character right away, is how are they going to handle it. He's going 50, 60 miles per hour on a freeway in the middle of the Dallas freeway, and we get a flat tire, but he was so calm and collected, and didn't get upset at all or blame
Knowing Ariel, he probably is like, Hashem's gonna take care of this. I know it.
Yeah, he did. We had our tire fixed by these 3 men like so quickly, and yeah, it was very like it really showed his character. And honestly, like you have to look at these bumps in your dating as a way to show who the person is. And yeah, honestly, our dating was incredible, and yeah, we really were very happy. And yeah, eventually it led to engagement 3 months later, and then 3 months after that,
it just happened naturally. It wasn't really just like a surprise or anything like that. And we're just so happy and grateful to Hashem, and just planning a wedding for the first time ever. It's very hectic doing that, but we made it through, and it was a beautiful wedding. We had people from LA, from Chicago, from Florida, from Israel, everywhere. And so, yeah, it was a month from this past Sunday that we had that wedding. And so, just so grateful and so blessed. And yeah, and so I would say, like, all you need is a chance when you're dating. Sometimes you just need that one chance, and, you could, reach very high levels, and anything, not even just dating. Like, you just need a chance. Someone takes a chance on you, who knows where you could go. And, a lot of the times, like I said, like, I felt like I was being limited, and many times the world around you will try to place their own limitations on you. And so whether it's like other people's opinions that try to give you that lack of self-confidence, or comparisons that will make you doubt yourself, you can't let any of those things creep in. I mean, this is your life, not theirs. And so this is your journey. And, I had to tell myself that my life wasn't over, and I was davening to Hashem for, many days, many nights to find my other half. And, Hashem answers prayers. And so it might take some time, but, it happens. And I'm just, so blessed. And, and then we're just at the beginning. So.
I love it. I love it. And I know there's so much more to unpack from both of your journeys and both of you guys working together. So maybe hopefully there'll be a part 2 of your episode, Ariel, with your better half. And hopefully we'll be able to show Rebecca the 5 towns. I know Ariel has such a good time in North Woodmere, so we'd love to show her and your sister, Ariel, the community. But as we sign off on this segment, there's still going to be another segment. We're going to open up the floor to some questions for Ariel and Rebecca. So people in the comment section, go ahead, and I'm sure people have questions, and we're going to answer them. And you guys were so good. You're so good.
Thank you.
I'm looking. It's a lot of people joining still. Anyone, if you have any questions. And by the way, I noticed there's a lag in between this and the questions. So sometimes, like when I'm on the live, I'm like typing the question, like, why aren't they looking at it? There is some sort of lag sometimes. Okay, we got a question from Benzi P. Okay, Benzi P said, what would each of you tell each other if you could speak to yourselves before you started dating?
Wow, that's a great question.
Yeah, thank you, Benzi P.
That's very good.
Yeah, I would tell myself that, Hashem is just preparing your wife for you. Because even though you might think, oh, like, how long am I going to be single for? I'm getting older. Hashem is preparing your wife for you. And so I actually had some people telling me that all along. And it's crazy that she came in town for the Ufruf, and she was speaking to someone at the Shabbos table, telling her the story about how she became more connected. And she was like, I looked up Jewish groups in LA in January of 2023. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, what was I doing in January 2023? And it happens to be that I was actually in Israel for the first time as an adult, and the first time since I was religious, davening at the Kotel for a shidduch. And I was like, wow, like I was literally at the holiest place on earth, davening to meet my other half. And she was just like searching up online to like find Jewish groups to start her journey. And so like during that time, if I would have known, like, wow, like Hashem is literally like at me, like saying, like, don't worry, Ariel, I'm preparing her right now for you. Like, it's like my tefillah at the Kotel was like sort of infused into the spiritual atmosphere of the world, and it just, this lightning bolt struck her. Like, I don't even know like what influenced her to just search that randomly online. Like, what made her want to search that up and start her journey? It just kind of like happened. And so I would just say, like, to understand that, like, to tell my past self that Hashem is preparing her for you. And so, what about you?
Beautiful. Rebecca, how about you?
Yeah, so I would probably tell my younger self that Hashem has your person out there. I dated quite a few guys, and heartbreaks happened, and just you want it so bad. Like, I wanted to be married, but Hashem knew those weren't the right people for you. And so, like, please, like, just don't give up hope, and just keep davening, and your person is out there, and what Hashem has his own plan, and you might think that that other plan was for you, but really, like, Hashem has a much better plan for you. And I would also just say that, like, obviously I learned from what I did, and not to judge people. Like, really, like, that was something that I learned very quickly. And I knew that my parents instilled that value in me, but then when push came to shove, like, I did judge at the end of the day. And so really, when you're dating, be open to people, whether it's something physical or just something, a small characteristic about them, like, speak to them about it. And really, like, you can grow from that characteristic that they may have, or from talking to them. And yeah, just try to be open, because it's so easy to judge others, but really, like, we're not perfect, and Hashem has made that person the way that they're meant to be. So if they're that person, if they're the way they are, then that could be the person for you. So
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. So powerful, so incredible. I'm going to end off with just this last question from
Mhm.
Sim230. Sim230 asks, he says, Ariel, did Rebecca know that she was getting married to the biggest Eagles fan?
Well, yeah. So she found out pretty quickly because we started dating right in the middle of the football season, and so yes, she knew about it, and now she's an Eagles fan herself.
Okay, good.
I had a speaking engagement in Philadelphia in January, and they flew her out as well, and she ended up
Yeah.
speaking a little bit too, and she did a great job. And we went to the Eagles Stadium and we got some jerseys, and it happens to be that the first or the season where I met my future wife was the season the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So there you go.
Yes. Incredible. Well, guys, thank you so much. You're awesome. I hope to see you guys in person soon. Continue rocking, and thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, we are gonna enter into our last segment. The first thing I have to say is Yaakov is amazing and a professional, and you could learn so much. And also, thank you so much to Ariel and to Rebecca. We are bringing on Ariella and Corey. Let's just see if they're on. But what I'll just say, which is interesting, is I was, as I was kind of like watching the interview, I was like, this is very similar to coming to a singles event, right? Like, I didn't really know what to expect. This is kind of like my first live, and this is kind of something like big. And then I come here and I kind of got integrated a little bit, and then I realized, like, it's not supposed to be so formal. It's not supposed to be so serious. Kind of like ease into your stuff a little bit. It's just supposed to be kind of like a conversation, just that a lot of people are watching. And so hopefully with that and that little pause that I had, and bringing Ariella on and Corey on, I'm excited for this really, really amazing couple for you guys to meet. We did do a trial run last night. I don't know if anyone saw it. A couple of the accounts went live. We were testing it all out. Is Ariella coming in? Let's see. Rivka, are you guys still there? I want to say.
Ariella asked you, could you request to add them?
Okay, we're gonna add.
Requested.
We requested. Request sent.
Thank you everyone for showing up tonight.
Yes.
Always great to see the support.
And thank you, DJ CP, in the background.
Man behind the bar.
Rivka, I'm curious if you guys are there. I would love to see.
I don't know if this.
What? Can they see it?
Here we go. Let's see this.
Hi. Sorry, what?
No, we just wanted to say hello. It was so amazing to hear
Hi.
from Ariel and Rebecca. It was such an amazing story. And we are bringing on Ariella came in right now. Yeah?
Yeah, we sent it to her. She should be able to get it.
But Rivka, what did you think? It was like just so amazing, really, the two of them as a couple, and seeing Yaakov was really, really cool in his element.
So amazing. I had to run to my kids first, so I didn't get everything exactly. Oh, hi, Rivka.
I was listening while I was putting my kids to bed, and I thought it was so inspiring. I really, everything about it, just not judging really not judging by the physical, and getting to know a person for who they are. And I think it's so hopeful and inspiring for many couples and people with disabilities that Hashem has a match for you. And it can be what you are, exactly what you dream of.
Yes, yes. And Rivka Krinsky, it was actually funny because I was thinking the same thing, but Ariella texted me that maybe we should have Shara Bitachons like at the registration table.
Oh, I think that's
I
amazing.
love
That's
that.
such a good
If there's
idea.
any kind of swag to give out,
Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to welcome our last couple, last segment of the night, and this has really, really been amazing. Ariella and Corey, who we got to schmooze a little bit last night, and looking forward to hopefully getting together at some point together. I want to introduce everyone to Ariella and to Corey. And maybe you guys could start, just each of you telling me a little bit about your background prior to dating. You guys have a really, really unbelievable story. Corey, can you hear me?
Well, like, you know, it's like,
There?
yeah.
Second. What's going on?
Let's see. They may be frozen.
Yeah, should I jump?
All right, there we go.
Oh, hey guys.
Sorry, we had a minor lag, and then it hopped off, and then it was like 30 seconds delayed.
I think we're back.
So
Well,
then we heard you asking if we could hear you. Now we can.
maybe tell everyone where you guys are. They'll understand the lag.
We have service in Birmingham, Alabama. It's just maybe not the greatest.
Okay.
Should I go first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna repeat the question again. I want to hear just a little bit, like a very short overview of kind of like prior to dating, what's your background and things like that.
Okay, so I grew up in Miami. I feel like we all say this about ourselves, but like pretty typical life. Baruch Hashem, like phenomenal childhood. Like can only think of amazing things. I went to like the regular schools, Torah Semes, and then Beis Yaakov, Miami. I did like a year in Israel. Went to like a seminary of my choice, Baruch Hashem. Undergrad, regular like summer camps. Went to a whole different bunch of them, and I was staff at Camp Simcha. Like a really Baruch Hashem wholesome, good childhood.
Okay. Very typical is what you would say.
I'm from
Corey, what about you?
Toronto, Thornhill to be specific. I grew up in a traditional home, keeping kosher in the house, eating dairy outside of the house, not keeping Shabbos fully, but always having Shabbos dinner and Yom Tov meals. And I went to a like traditional community elementary school and middle school, and then I went on to the community high school. So not like a yeshiva high school, but a community one. It's called Chat for anyone listening who's from Toronto or anyone who knows someone from Toronto. But I started to become more observant following my bar mitzvah in the middle of 5 children, 3 sisters, 1 brother. And then I went to yeshiva after high school and continued on growing and learning from that point on.
Wow, amazing. So I was part of the Shasathon the past 3 years, and that's kind of like when I first heard your story. And then I go home to my wife, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to see this story. And she's like, yeah, I know. Like, I follow Ariella Kamen. So Ariella, maybe you could share a little bit about, like what happened after and, kind of what makes your story so.
Sure. Do you think I should turn off the Wi-Fi? Okay, let's hope that everyone hears. So it actually was during my year in Israel when I was in seminary that I came to like fully understand and learn about my diagnosis, which is called MRKH, and essentially it means that I was born without a uterus. So obviously, like Israel's a big year for people. So it was hard and it was good. It was hard, of course I wasn't physically like near my parents at the time. But there were a lot of hidden brachos, and a lot of my support system, even until today, is in Israel. And Baruch Hashem, like I've gotten to meet some incredible people and great opportunities being where I was. So then I come home from seminary and, as far as anyone else is concerned, nothing changed. Except for that, like now I'm ready to date. And, all the comments come flying in and everyone means really well. I'm telling my mom like, oh, like Ariella's is going to get snatched up in seconds, like just all the comments that, you know, should be so sweet to hear, but like they hurt so badly. And so I guess those Israel was like navigating what dating was going to look like if and when and how, and all the questions of like how to start, where to start. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more? And again, like I can't even imagine what it's like to, right? Meaning it turns your whole life upside down. Can you
So
just, yeah,
there's a few, you know, options, and obviously like depending on personality and different people in different circumstances and culturally, I guess there's different routes. So, you know, I did temporarily try going to like what they call like special shadchanim, but kind of ran into a little bit of what you were explaining at the very beginning of the live, which is like where in the world is this suggestion coming from, you know? And I'm almost like, did you not hear me? Like I just introduced myself and like told you that I was a pre-med student and et cetera, and like nothing about the suggestion. It just didn't seem like at all relevant. So that was really hard, and I didn't fully feel that that was going to be my path. And then people kind of say, well, maybe you can marry like somebody that has like a big family already, and you know, somebody that maybe like lost a wife and has like, you know, 5, 6, 7, and they gave me like these big numbers of children, and I was like a 20-year-old at the time or whatever it is. It's hard to hear. And then there was the other option of like, you know, go ahead and date, but then the really hard part about that is the fear of rejection. And in my mind, it was like, you know, how many, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of boys am I going to have to date? And how many times am I going to have to be really hurt in order to find the maybe, you know, the one? And really, it was like it was very difficult to imagine like a happy ending. I think it was just like too hard to even like let my mind go there, like, oh, that, you know, this could turn out okay, and it'll be okay. But what ended up happening is I guess also when COVID came, I started becoming a little bit more open to the idea of dating over Zoom. And so I dated a couple of guys over Zoom, but nothing like just, you know, a couple of dates, nothing more than that. I wasn't shy until Corey.
wow, until Corey came around. And just to kind of give a little bit of backdrop, meaning what's different or unique about your specific case is that no one meeting you would know. And so meaning it's not apparent, right, when the shidduch is being made. It's something that would have to be kind of shared at a certain point, right? As opposed to, let's say, even in the story right before with Ariel and Rebecca, right, their situation, right, it was kind of known. There's no way to hide that kind of prior.
Right.
And it adds a different set of challenges. So Corey, can you share, you know, kind of like what it was like, you know, initially meeting, you know, Ariella, and what that was like, and then ultimately I want to get to kind of where you guys had to face, you know, this situation together.
Sure. A friend of mine from university had actually met Ariella years prior, doing Magen David Adom together. And Ariella kind of became his impromptu Rebbitzin. He was not as observant as he is now. And
Wait, we need to give his name because Rivka Fox is on the live too.
That's
I
true.
think we know each other.
They do know each other. It's Yoni Zach was our shadchan, and he was my friend from university, and he knew Ariella from Magen David Adom because before
we were waiting for the Yoni shout out. Yoni was so excited. For years, he's been telling us at our Shabbos table, we're very close to Yoni, their shadchan, about this amazing couple. And then I posted on my status this thing, and all caps, that's my couple from
That's his
Yoni. So it's so nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Sorry.
That's it. We got to bring Yoni in. Just bring in.
Yeah. And so Yoni calls me up one day, and I'm in Israel. I had started medical school a year before Ariella. Tells me, I know the best girl in the world for you. And I'm thinking, because he's from Toronto, okay, it's going to be someone from Toronto. It's not really so shy. It's the middle of COVID, and I'm in Israel. And he says, no, she's from Miami. I'm like, oh, even more irrelevant. Like, so why are you suggesting? He's like, because she goes to your medical school. I'm like, what? And so sure enough, I do a little bit of looking into, and I realize, yeah, she is. And
because it's virtual.
but it was virtual, right? So wasn't meeting everyone in person. But both of us not knowing it, we're going back and forth in our own minds. Like, is it really shy to go out with someone in your medical school? It's not such a big medical school. And what if it doesn't go well? It's going to be a pretty awkward next few years, you know, trying to forge something and then it doesn't come to be. And that's initially kind of where we left it. And we were kind of like, wait, we'll see. You know, when we come to meet each other in person, if it's something we want to pursue. But Yoni kept calling, and you know, I remember it was Hanukkah of 2020, and I just remember just thinking it over and speaking with a few close family members and mentors of mine, and I just felt that push, which I guess was really just Hashem giving me the little nudge I needed. What's the worst that could happen? What's the biggest, you know, consequence that could happen? Maybe you'll just meet the person that you're meant to be meeting, and maybe it's just a date. And so I decided to ask Ariella out, and that was on the 5th night of Hanukkah, and we ended up going out on the 7th night of Hanukkah. And another friend, another member of the contingent from Magen David Adom gave me a good idea, you know, to Uber her a Starbucks. We couldn't go out for real coffee, so at least I initiated it like that. And
I love that.
Really,
I did that once on a Zoom date also. Like I sent over they didn't have Uber Eats at the time, but they had like, I just sent a Starbucks gift card. You were much more clever, but yeah.
We had a really nice first date, and we had a really nice bunch of dates, you know, for the first month.
So should I pivot for a second?
Sure.
So that was a little bit problematic because on my end, obviously, I was like, you know, pulling out the excuses from my big excuse book. And then I was like, okay, fine. Like, we'll say yes to a date and it'll be what they call a one and done. And like, okay, fine. But then, like he said, we, you know, then had another nice date and another nice date. And so then I'm starting to get a little bit nervous because I never really got to that point yet with anybody.
Wow.
And I'm trying to think, there was a few times where maybe something, you know, that could stir up the conversation did happen. But I think at some moments, maybe it was like raised up a little bit more, not for any real reason other than that, understandably so, that like fight or flight or that concern of Ariella, like, I've never got into this moment. I never thought I would get to this moment, or like, what was it going to look like? And so it's like, instead of just like facing it head on, it's almost like, let's just like chalk it up to something else being the problem. And that's why we can't continue. That's why I don't have to share this.
Yeah, and I want to stop for just 1 second and honor like that experience for you, Ariella, because it like resonates so much with you. You were holding something so large as you're having this really, really special relationship and seeing something here, but also at the same time holding like this huge thing to yourself that you can't share.
It's so hard, and I'm even just like hearing you talk about it, it's almost like bringing me back to, I guess, like places that I haven't been to in so long. But I guess like to an extent, then I was like very comfortably living a double life. Like I would call myself, if anyone knows the reference, like Hannah Montana, and like really wore a mask. So maybe it was like a little bit easier, but again, like this type of a relationship and dating isn't just like any person you meet. And so it was definitely hard, and it was definitely something that I was worried about, like, how am I going to be myself while also having this huge thing always in the back of my mind. But I really think like A, like that's where Hashem steps in, and B, when it's with, if and when it's with the right person, it clearly like gets taken care of a little bit. And so like, you know, conversations and dating and connection, like really, you know, was able to continue even though there was that big thing still kind of lurking.
Wow. Okay. So then what happens next?
So at one of the dates in between, in that first month, I just remember Ariella came on, and I'm a relatively perceptive person, and I saw on her wrist she had a bracelet, and pretty early on into the date, I said, you know, I can't really make out, because this was all over Zoom. Our first 2 months that we dated were all over Zoom. I said, I can't really see what your bracelet says, but I think it says something. and she told me it said warrior. And obviously,
Why didn't you just think it said my name like a normal person?
and obviously I was intrigued. And, you know, my mind went to certain things of where I've heard the warrior slogan.
You're
But,
Googling hashtag warrior.
right. And so I asked her, and she said, you know, the short answer is that, you know, everyone is a warrior in their own life of the personal challenges that they have and that they face and they, you know, work towards overcoming. That's the answer I tell people. There's a real answer. There's a real reason. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said, I do want to tell you, just not yet.
Something along those lines.
Wow.
And not, you know, I only at that point knew my side of the relationship, of the dating. But going on the other side was Ariella, you know, trying to figure out like this failed. It wasn't a one and done. And I'm, you know, learning more about this guy, and I like him to some degree. I'm gonna have to tell him at some point, but what point is that? And it was probably about a month or just past the month into us dating that Ariella told me a few days prior that there was something very big that she wanted to share with me. And just, you know, I could just try to find, you know, a bit more of a quiet place for wherever our next date would be. Like, you know, to not necessarily be in my apartment where my roommates were going to be, just, you know, somewhere where people weren't necessarily, you know, who I know going to be overhearing the conversation, because it was going to be private and sensitive material. And I just remember, you know, in that day or two, which probably felt like longer than that, because like, what's she going to share? Like, I've known her for
You had 2 days to chew on that before she shared
I
with you?
don't remember
I
that.
think it was 2 days.
I don't remember that.
Or it definitely felt
Either a day or 2 days. What'd you say?
it definitely felt like 2 days.
Right. And so I remember I called my Rav, and I was just maybe a bit nervous, but not necessarily nervous of like, what is she going to say? Obviously, you're just a little intrigued and confused, but also like, how can I be like the best me or the best person in this scenario, where this person who I like a lot and I'm, you know, enjoying and getting to know a lot more and getting more connected to, how can I be like the most, like the most sensitive or whatever, for whatever it's going to be, because I literally had no idea.
Right. Like it's hard to prepare for like the literal unknown.
Right.
Can I ask
Putting
a question?
yourself in here.
What were you like? Where was your mind going?
I remember my Rav and me like kibitzing a little bit, because it was just like we were suggesting the most far-fetched things that were just like, obviously like what was to come, that wasn't on the radar, like, but things way
Everything-
more far-fetched.
Everything but that.
Right.
Gotcha.
But it was like, but if it was any of those extremely far-fetched things, that this is this person who I've gotten to know, and I, on a very deep level, you know, for a month, and it wasn't just 30-minute coffee dates on Zoom. Our dates, they went for a long time. And we, you know, developed a nice connection. And the way he explained it was like, this person is now inviting you into a very safe or very sacred space of their life.
Yes.
And all you need to do, you don't need to think about it, is just try to be in that space for what it be. And that was the machshav, that was like the mentality I tried going into the date. And so it was a few days later, and so we just, pretty soon into getting on the phone, Ariella just like kind of just had to like.
I'm gonna rewind a tiny bit. Yeah.
Sure.
So just like, first of all, like, of course, there are a lot of different ways that different people do things. For me, like, I spoke with my Rav, and we kind of decided that, like, at some point, that seems like it's a little bit like the halfway point. And obviously, you don't exactly know what the half point is when you don't have like a we're getting engaged by the state. Like we weren't even talking engagement yet, but when you feel like you're at what would maybe feel as like the halfway point, then that's an appropriate time for me to tell. So that was my own personal situation. Some people might do earlier, later, whatever it is. So then when I, told Corey, then, I don't remember how many days it was. I just remember trying to like rehearse and talk it over with like a mentor of mine and panic. And I was so petrified. I don't even, honestly, like I do think I blocked a lot of it out. It was really like at the time, it was like the biggest deal in the whole world. And it's something that I can't really put into words because it was like playing out like one of my biggest fears.
And you had never done this before either, right? It's not like this came up.
Right. Yeah, and I did over the years tell like a handful of friends, but like even to that extent, like no family members knew. Like it was me and my parents. It was a couple of
Mentors.
rabbanim and mentors, and then like over the years, like a couple of friends that just depending on the circumstances and the timing, like I would add a couple of friends. So yeah, but of course this was very different. And I went into the date like wanting to share everything very factually. Do you want to hear? Do you want to say it?
The what?
Like when I told, I guess.
It was just very soon into getting on the phone. She just, I don't want to say she blurted it out, but she just like said like, I was born without a uterus. I was born with
I probably said hi first.
Right. But barely. It was a quick hello. And then, she explained to me what it meant because, even though we had both gone through like our first year of medical school, it's like something that's glossed over when you get to like the female anatomy and female endocrinology and like everything with reproductive health. It's like one slide on a presentation of 180 slides. This condition called MRKH.
Right.
And yet, staggering to the mind, the statistics say that it's 1 in 5,000. You would think when you hear something like this, it's 1 in a million because it really feels like it. But it's supposedly 1 in 5,000. And after Ariella shared with me, some of those details and reteaching me anatomy, she said to me, you can hang up and think about it. You can.
Yeah. So I said to him, obviously, like that I have what to share. And I said, and once I do, like, I want you to be able to take the time that you need. So like you can hang up. And then I think I said like, and call me back whenever, or don't call me back. Like I was so scared and I just like was trying to protect myself so much.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't really mean like take all the time you need. Like I was like hoping that it would be within like, I don't know, a number of days or maybe up to a week or whatever it is. And I gave him like a list of phone numbers of mentors and rabbanim that he can speak to. And I welcomed him to ask me as like any questions as well. And I kind of, like he said, gave like a mini anatomy class and explained like what the situation was. And I also kind of like laid out what the options are in terms of building a family. So again, I was born without a uterus, but I do, Baruch Hashem, have 2 functional ovaries. And that's where the eggs are. So in terms of like biological children, Baruch Hashem, that's an option. So we kind of just spoke about how there's adoption, there's surrogacy, and then I said, and there's this really exciting like I don't even remember if I spoke about it like very real or more so like in the future, fiction. But I really always say like it's very science fiction, like this emerging field of uterine transplant, and I expressed how it's something that I really would love to be able to like explore and look into.
Right, and it sounds like you were doing this very factual, like it was laid out. Like here's the situation, here's the options, right? Like, wow, I can't even imagine. Okay.
And then he didn't hang up. So,
you weren't ready for that either.
No, I didn't. Like that was not no, I did not think that was an option. But we just we continued the date somehow.
We continued talking about a number of things related to it, to her, to when she found out, right? This was all me learning all of this part of the story for the first time.
Right.
About her life and like now revisiting every single element of her path from that post-seminary time. and like revisiting everything she's accomplished, everything she's done, all while carrying that on her shoulders. And, you know, making her way through all those little, you know, rough patches of every time someone would suggest something, you know, she was definitely a very big asset in the Miami community. Like, as she said, like, as people would say, what should be endearingly, like she's going to be scooped up in seconds, like it's really true.
Right.
And so we continued the date, but obviously, you know, I still wanted to speak about it with mentors of hers and rabbis of mine. But something that I thought about on the date, and I shared it with Ariella, was, you know, a reflection that my mother had shared with me about her parents. And her mother passed away before I was born. It was when she was 15. And my grandfather passed away when I was 3. But many years before that, right before they got married, the doctors told them that my mother's mother was only had a year to live. She had a lot of autoimmune diseases and things of that sort, and the care for them is not like they are today. And right? Thanks. And my late grandfather said, I'm going to marry her anyways.
Wow.
And it will be the greatest year of my life, if that's all it will be. And the doctors were wrong. And she lived either 21 or 22 years and had 3 daughters and, you know, descendants from each of them. And I'm one of them. And the point that I took from the story is just like, you never know anything. And I think that's a big theme of what is being spoken about here and at the event to come. It's like people could think like, I'm healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, like whatever it is. But the truth is we never know what tomorrow may bring. We just never do. And we think we've like conquered the hishtadlus, that like, oh, I've avoided all these issues, so now I'm gonna go on my married way, unintended, or merry way.
Ouch.
and like
You
there's
got
not gonna be any
a lot of
issues.
love.
And I remember one of the lines or comments that I reflected on with one of Ariella's mentors was like, here's this person that like has weathered this massive storm of life, but I knew her before I got to know this other element, this amazing, strong, devoted, loyal, you know, put in a million adjectives, who happens to have this. And if anything, it makes her all the more strong for all that she's done and all those attributes that I've come to know of her and like and appreciate, because of that now I'm seeing it in a new, unique light, because all of that was while carrying all this close to her heart. And the feeling I had was like, if someone can do that, then they're able to weather any of the inevitable storms of life. And that's someone I would want to have by my side. And I just felt that, you know, yes, there's this obstacle, but as Ariella did in a very, you know, factual and panicked or nervous state of mind, she laid out there's options. It's not a dead end. And so I wanted to, and so after speaking it over and just taking that time to think about it, I wanted to continue. And thankfully she did too. And then the nerves turned to, I guess, a good anxiousness. And it was kind of like, if you don't get over here soon enough, then you can stay in Israel. And like, we're not getting married. So now I was put in the, you know, with the fire under me to get a move on.
Get a move
That's
on.
a whole nother story of all the siyata d'shmaya of how I made it to Miami
when
Ben Gurion was closed and on and off and off and on. But eventually I made it to Miami and we dated for 2 weeks in person. And then we got engaged at the end of February of 21. And then we got married at the beginning of May. So just a few months later. So we're coming up on our 4th anniversary, Mirz Hashem. on May 6th on Chaf Dalet Iyar. And
Can you share, like kind of the other elements, which I think is, just those who don't know would love to hear. Like in terms of, like the success story and the baby that you have. Very quickly, I mean, just that people know,
I could try to say it quickly, and if I'm going slow, then you can. So pretty much a few months after we got married, we already started to like do some of the inevitable things that we knew we were going to have to do towards being able to build a family, like creating embryos and things of that sort. And soon after we went back to Israel, we started or even before then, we started looking into uterine transplant programs. And one of the programs told us, or you found it online?
One program wasn't taking any more applicants at the time because some of them are still like a research trial. So one of them told us about a program in Birmingham, Alabama. And I was like, Alabama, like we learned about that in elementary school. Like, it's one of the 50 states, like you probably memorized it or came up with a song, but
somewhere
like
in the middle of the map.
Yeah, like where's Alabama?
And as a Canadian, I never thought I was going to be living in Alabama. The only thing I knew of it is that my uncle was the rabbi in Alabama like 35, 40 years ago.
Which is more than most Americans can say about their relationship to Alabama.
And so we started to look into the process for applying to the program, and we had a bunch of Zoom meetings while we were in Israel, and we had to get approval from our school. We were in medical school, and thank God our school, the leadership understood the importance of building a family. And in many other scenarios, we probably would have had to sacrifice one for the other. But the dean of our medical school, who unfortunately was nifter just before, I'm giving away part of the story, our daughter was born, he gave us his full blessing in more ways than one to go and to be matzliach. And it was just like, with those as like the wingtails and just like the force moving behind us, it was just like, you can't ask for something more than it. And so we came to Birmingham in March the following year. We had an evaluation, and right before Pesach, we were accepted to the program. And then we moved here to Birmingham, June of 22. Ariella got listed on UNOS, the transplant list, in July. And the week of Parshas Vayera, Ariella was called in for a transplant, and she received it that week in November. And earlier,
fast forward, because it was just so straightforward. Baruch Hashem, we had our daughter on Vav Tishrei.
Yes.
And she's over 6 months now.
Unbelievable. You guys are amazing. And Yaakov, we're in the studio already. You should just
just change our background.
Yeah. No, you guys got to come here in person. But this is unbelievable, and you guys are really, really so amazing and such great examples. And Corey and Ariella, there's so much wisdom that you shared. I know the hour is late, and I don't know how late people stay up. Most people are probably in their bed scrolling. Is that how it is?
We're an hour earlier. Fun fact about Alabama, it's Central Time.
Okay, got you. What do you think, Ariella? You're the pro here. This is my first live. Where should we go with this? Should we open up to questions or wrap it up?
I'm fine with her.
What's the baby's name?
Her name is Eliana Emuna.
Oh, how beautiful.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know how the questions work, but I feel like there were just like a few things that I just like wanted to add.
Sure.
In terms of like the date of the preparation of being afraid of like, I have something really big to tell and I don't know how he's going to react. A few things. First of all, I felt comforted in knowing that even if this is not something that Corey is going to be able to take on and to accept and to want to move forward with, I didn't feel like afraid or anxious about sharing with him. Because like he said about kind of like what his rabbi was discussing with him, I felt like he was somebody that I can trust, and he understood that this was really like privileged information. And so I felt like no matter what, like it's going to be okay in terms of like he's not going to go and treat this information as public or whatever. So that really like speaks volumes. And I guess to anyone listening, like I'm not saying like everyone has to go ahead and say yes. Like that's not the definition of being open-minded. You don't have to go ahead and marry the person, but just in terms of being like a safe space and recognizing that this is like privileged information, whether it's visible to the public eye or not.
Don't be afraid of getting to that moment for what would happen if it doesn't end up being your spouse. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're getting to that point, it means that the other person is someone that's safe and it's comfortable, and it's not going to, go running around town with that info.
And Corey, I'm thinking just for a second, because like for me, the most profound moment in this story was almost like that 2-day wait where, and what that rabbi told you about kind of just, she's inviting you into this sacred space, right? And just kind of be there with her. And the way that you showed up there for her in that sacred space, I'm sure was such a connecting moment for you, right? Because Ariella was anticipating, okay, let me quickly go and like talk this over with everyone. And the fact that you stayed there and you stayed with her, right? I can't imagine what type of message that sends. And it's really that like, no matter how sacred the space is and how personal it is, I will be there to hold it with you. And I just can't imagine how strong your relationship is because of that specific moment.
It's true.
Probably true. Like most couples, and I'm not saying we would recommend this, like that expression, don't try this at home. No, I wouldn't recommend like starting IVF 3 months into being married. There's definitely been challenging moments along the path. But in the hindsight, those challenging moments, they shape us. They shape everyone's relationships. They're very formative. And it's either you could look at it with that negative lens, like, oh, that was such a horrible time, or it's like there's things that I can glean from that and learn from that, and forevermore, learn and improve upon, and those then become like the biggest strengths of a relationship.
Yes. Wow. This was amazing. You guys are unbelievable. We have to meet in person, and really just call a kavod for sharing your story. I know it's not easy, and you should continue to inspire the world and continue to do amazing things. I think we'll maybe stop off on the questions, unless, again, I'm not an expert in Instagram Live, so Ariel, I would defer to you.
I don't see any questions other than, will this be saved, I think.
Right. So first of all, yes, this will be saved. And I think we'll kind of break it up into clips or maybe segments so that people could watch whichever ones they would like to. I just want to thank everyone who was here on this live for everything that, like for participating and for sharing. It's really, really been special. And just to kind of finalize in terms of the event itself, it was great to have kind of two models of couples here that really show kind of that Hashem runs the world, and that Hashem is the one who ultimately is mizaveh zivugim, and that again, Corey, one other thing is that there must be, I want to see that gene, that maybe there is an open-minded gene, or kind of like that gene that does allow people to see situations in a different way, because it seems like it's really runs in your family, which is also so moving. So that's number one. And the last thing that I just want to say kind of before we sign off here, thank you for everyone who was here. We designed this event. This is the first of its kind. There's never been anything that's been done like this before. So that no matter what happens, everyone will have an amazing time. We have kind of top tier entertainment. And that all the people that are going to be there, whether they're ultimately your bashert or not, rather the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, is someone who, just like tonight, right, is someone that we've met so many interesting and fascinating people who we have so much to learn from. Each and every one, and I'm doing every single interview to kind of pre-screen every single individual for this event. Each and every one has a story that no matter what happens in terms of, who marries who and all those types of things, I am changed by each and every conversation that I have. And to just imagine being in a room with so many people who have that same kind of common denominator is something that I'm so excited for. And so I know that it's going to be a life-changing experience. I welcome all of you, to kind of attend and to share who this is relevant and eligible for. And Amir Hashem, we should have such siyata d'shmaya that everyone should be successful in all the things that they do. Thank you all for being here. Really, it's so special. What'd you say?
You can sign up on Instagram
And
for
you
the
could
form.
sign up on Instagram. There's the form there. And if anyone wants to contact myself or my wife or anyone else here, you could. My email is imoanochi1@gmail.com until we get our website fully set up. And my wife and I also kind of really try to work and help as much as we can with shidduchim. So we're here for you. And Amir Hashem, we should all see Yeshua's and Refuas and Bizocha to Mashiach and Amir Hashem very, very soon. Thank you guys so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great show, guys.